this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt.
That is just one of the instructions Judge Mims gave jurors before dismissing them to deliberate on the fate of former GRPD officer Christopher SCHURR.
Deliberations will pick up again this morning once court is back in session. The process started at around 12:45 yesterday afternoon, with jurors getting about 4 hours in before court closed for the day. With a full day to deliberate today, it's possible we could see a verdict, but we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, those jurors will need to agree unanimously.
If at some point during the deliberations the jurors can't reach a consensus, they may actually come out to the judge and say, hey, we're split, we can't agree. And judges normally, the first time a jury does that, in any case, the judge usually will say, hey, we get that this is difficult, but you heard the testimony, you saw the evidence, it's your responsibility to go back and continue deliberating with respect and due diligence and try to reach a verdict.
So many different outcomes are possible as we reach the final stretch of the Christopher SCHURR trial. That includes a hung jury, as she just mentioned. That's one of 4 potential outcomes of this trial.
That's as SCHURR faces a new charge. 13 on your side's Aaron Sullivan, live outside of the Kent County Courthouse. Aaron, how does this new charge change the potential outcome of the case?
Well, Tanner, Emily, there's possible outcomes we can be looking at, 4 to be exact here. Christopher SCHURR can be found guilty of second-degree manslaughter or voluntary manslaughter. He could also be found not guilty, or there could be a hung jury. Now, looking at the facts here, the prosecution asked the judge to include the lesser of voluntary manslaughter before closing arguments began. Voluntary manslaughter means a person killed another person unlawfully without premeditation. Now, if SCHURR is found guilty of that charge, he likely still face jail time with the maximum of 15 years. If he's found guilty of second-degree murder, he could face up to life in prison. Now, if there's a hung jury, that means they could not come to a unanimous decision. The verdict must be unanimous. A judge, if he declares a mistrial because of a hung jury, it's up to the prosecution to decide on a second trial. If they don't want to go to trial again, a plea agreement could be offered to reduce these charges. Now, there's no deadline for the jury to reach a verdict, so we'll absolutely keep you updated on air as well as online at 13onyourside.com. For now, live in downtown Grand Rapids, I'm Aaron Sullivan, 13 on Your Side.
Thanks, Aaron. Before jurors left to deliberate, and even before they got their instructions, the defense and prosecution getting one last chance to make their cases.
Attempting to summarize the 3 years of history and then the 5 days of testimony in the case here, Prosecutor Chris Becker was first up to the podium, and in his 30-minute closing statement, Becker referred back to testimonies and evidence, reiterating the decisions SCHURR made in April of 2022 are unjustifiable.
No evidence, no evidence, never said he threatened it, said he was going to use it, that I was going to kill you, said anything like that. He simply had the taser as one of the justifications of why I had to shoot. Because Patrick is no saint. I'm not going to sit here and argue Patrick was a saint. He was drunk driving. He was resisting. He was driving without a driver's license. None of those are executable offenses.
Well, after the prosecutor, it was then SCHURR's attorney, Matt Borgula's turn, and he spoke on why the evidence presented and testimony heard show that SCHURR was justified in fearing for his life and acting the way he did.
You have to decide whether the prosecutor has proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt. They're disagreeing with each other on the basis for why he should or should not be in fear. How can you convict someone for acting unreasonably and not being in fear when their own experts disagree? And certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Before deliberation could get underway, the prosecutor was given a chance to rebuttal the defense's closing statements. Becker touching on some contradictions from the defense's witnesses.
Now, as the jury deliberates, you can watch witness testimony and closing arguments on our streaming app, 13+. It's all pinned at the bottom of the screen. Once you're in the app, our live coverage continues at 8:30 this morning. 13+ is free to download.